Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Minister, colleagues. During this debate last year, I referred to the issue dealing with Mr. David Nkosi. And colleagues may remember that Mr. Nkosi was a South African diplomat stationed in Vienna, in Austria, and he succeeded in causing damage of more than 750,000 rand in the apartment that was allocated to him, which the department leased from the private owner. At the time, the spokesperson for the department, Mr. Lunga Nkinglele, said that the matter was receiving urgent attention and investigation is underway, which will also determine liability. I want to ask the Minister today if she could indicate what action was taken in this case and if this gentleman was then adequately sued in court and was the monies repaid to the department for the loss that he caused. And I would also like to know if this gentleman's got any connection in any way still to the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. Our foreign policy, Chairperson, colleagues, is based on the white paper on foreign policy that was agreed by Cabinet in 2011. It says building a better world, the Diplomacy of Ubuntu, the white paper on South Africa's foreign policy 2011. And when it gets to the Middle East, it says the following: South Africa's foreign policy on the Middle East will have to take cognizance of changing and complex regional dynamics. My view is that our foreign policy is exactly not doing that. We are not taking cognizance of the changing, complex and regional dynamics. There was a time during the government of President Mandela when in a discussion document on foreign policy, an international neutral position for South Africa was advocated. But slowly but surely the ideological stranglehold of ANC policy changed all that. We moved away from a policy driven by human rights to one where former allies from the Cold War would be the driving force. And thus we became the advocate for Castro, Gaddafi, Arafat, Maduro, Omar al-Bashir and Kim Jong-un, and we heard that again today. South Africa, with our simplistic, one-eyed pro-Palestine approach in our foreign policy solutions for the Middle East, has become irrelevant. The world has moved on from a simplistic two-state solution with an emphasis of Palestine being the victim and Israel being the aggressor. The Abraham Accords, signed on the 13th of August 2020 between Israel, United Arab Emirates, the US and Bahrain, indicates this new approach. The Arab world has moved on beyond Palestine. They are no longer going to be victims of the Palestinian internal conflict between Hamas and Fatah themselves. That agreement was signed. How does South Africa react to that breakthrough agreement in the Abraham Accords? South Africa issued a press statement on the 14th of August saying the following: the South African government has noted with concern the development regarding the normalization of relations between Israel and the Arab United Emirates. We are concerned about that breakthrough. The current idea by some that South Africa might be asked to mediate major international disputes is a fantasy that still dreams of the past when the ANC was thought to occupy the moral high ground, when South Africa was thought of as having achieved a miraculous compromise. South Africa has squandered all of its diplomatic capital. During November 2021, we witnessed the extraordinary sight of our foreign affairs establishment getting into a rage over Miss South Africa attending an event in Israel and being successfully defied by the young woman. Well done, Lalele Mswane. Which other country's foreign office would get into a public squabble with a beauty queen and lose? Meanwhile, Israel has been hosting a meeting of Arab League foreign ministers, an event important enough to attract the attendance of the US Secretary of State. The Palestinian foreign minister said the meeting was a harsh attack against the Palestinian people, but nobody was listening to that. The foreign ministers resolved to turn that meeting into things moving on, and a new era exceeds that of the European Union, and by some margin the strongest and most successful state in the Middle East. Does our Department of International Relations even notice that? The ANC government has made a huge mistake by allowing BDS to dictate its foreign policy, a mistake which has already put it at odds with the African Union, which has granted Israel observer status despite South Africa's protests. That will just leave South Africa further and further behind in the slipstream of others. Luckily, in 2 years' time from now, with a new government, a multi-party coalition government, South Africa will once again return to a normal, acceptable foreign policy. We can't wait to get to that point. Thank you, Chairperson.